What is the popular name for the ancient Egyptian works generally inscribed on papyrus and placed in coffins of nobility and royalty? Book of the Dead. The Book of the Dead is a collection of ancient Egyptian funerary texts from various periods, comprising spells intended to assist the deceased on their journey through the underworld and into the afterlife. These texts were frequently inscribed on papyrus and placed within coffins or burial chambers of royalty and nobility. In 1949, when the part of Ireland that was more independent than the rest was declared a sovereign independent state outside the British Commonwealth, what name was given to it? Republic of Ireland. In 1949, the Republic of Ireland Act formally declared the state a sovereign independent republic, thereby ending its remaining constitutional links with the British monarchy and leaving the Commonwealth of Nations. This marked a significant milestone in Ireland's path to full self-determination. What is the capital of Texas? Austin. Austin is the capital city of the U.S. state of Texas and the seat of Traverse County. Located in central Texas, it is a major educational and cultural center, known for its vibrant music and tech industries. People from Brittany in France are known as what? Breton. People from Brittany, a cultural region and former independent duchy in the northwest of France, are known as Bretons. They have a distinct cultural identity, including their own Celtic language, Breton, which is related to Cornish and Welsh. What does hum mean when referring to Queen Elizabeth II? Her Majesty. Her Majesty is a formal style of address used for queens regnant and queen consorts. It signifies the monarch's supreme authority and is a common honorific in monarchical systems. How did Helen Sharman make history in 1991? First British person in space. Helen Sharman became the first British astronaut and the first Western European woman in space when she visited the Mir space station in 1991. Her mission, Project Juno, highlighted international cooperation in space exploration. What right of a defendant was last used in Ashford v. Thornton, an 1818 English legal case that was a private appeal from an acquittal for murder? Trial by combat. The case of Ashford vs. Thornton * in 1818 famously saw the last successful claim for trial by combat in English law. Though the challenge was made, the combat did not actually proceed, and the right was formally abolished in 1819, marking a significant historical shift in legal procedures. Jugular veins carry blood away from which part of the body? Head. Jugular veins are a group of veins located in the neck that are responsible for draining deoxygenated blood from the brain, face, and neck, returning it to the heart. There are two main sets, the external and internal jugular veins. Who wrote the music for the ballet, Romeo and Juliet, and Peter and the Wolf, a children's tale for narrator and orchestra? Prokofiev. Sergei Prokofiev was a prominent Soviet composer, pianist, and conductor. His works Romeo and Juliet, Ballet, and Peter and the Wolf, Symphonic Fairy Tale, are among his most celebrated compositions, showcasing his distinctive style and narrative prowess in music. Who succeeded Sir William Howe as Commander-in-Chief of the British forces in 1778 during the American War of Independence? Sir Henry Clinton. Sir Henry Clinton took command of the British forces in North America during the American War of Independence in 1778, succeeding Sir William Howe. His tenure was marked by strategic shifts, including the evacuation of Philadelphia and focusing operations in the southern colonies. Which city, the second largest in Chile, was moved 3 meters to the west by an earthquake in February 2010? Concepcion. Concepcion, a major city in Chile, experienced significant displacement, moving approximately 3 meters to the west, during the devastating mall earthquake in February 2010. This powerful magnitude 8.8 earthquake caused widespread damage and altered the geography of the region. What Western Christian military order, which existed for approximately 2 centuries in the Middle Ages, was endorsed by the Roman Catholic Church around 1129? Knights Templar. The Knights Templar were a powerful and wealthy Catholic military order during the Middle Ages, officially recognized by the Church around 1129. They played a significant role in the Crusades, protecting pilgrims and defending the Latin Christian states in the Levant, before their eventual suppression in the early 14th century. Where is the Day of the Dead, celebrated on the 2nd of November? Mexico. The Day of the Dead, Dia de Muertos, is a vibrant and significant Mexican holiday celebrated primarily on November 1st and 2nd. It is a time for families to remember and honor their deceased loved ones through altars, offerings, and festivities, rather than mourning, reflecting a unique cultural perspective on death. What phrase refers to an archaic method of excommunication for one who had committed a particularly grievous sin? Bell, book and candle. Bell, book, and candle refers to a traditional, elaborate form of excommunication in the Catholic Church, particularly common in the Middle Ages. The ritual involved the ringing of a bell, the closing of a book, and the extinguishing of a candle, symbolizing the sinner's expulsion from the Christian community and their spiritual darkness. Who, in 1842, became the first U.S. president's wife to die in the White House? Letitia Tyler. Letitia Tyler, the first wife of U.S. President John Tyler, passed away in the White House on September 10, 1842. She was the first First Lady to die while her husband was in office, making her a notable figure in American presidential history. From 1946 to 1970, the Jules Rimet Trophy was awarded to the winner of what competition? The FIFA World Cup, Soccer. The Jules Rimet Trophy was the original prize for the FIFA World Cup, awarded from 1946 to 1970. Named after the third FIFA president, it was permanently awarded to Brazil after their third World Cup victory in 1970, as per the competition rules, before the current FIFA World Cup trophy was introduced. How many different people were Prime Minister of Canada in the first 100 years after the first was appointed in 1867? 14. Canada's first Prime Minister, Sir John A. Macdonald, was appointed in 1867. In the subsequent 100 years, leading up to 1967, a total of 14 different individuals held the office of Prime Minister. This demonstrates the political leadership changes during Canada's formative century. What embroidery technique is to gather fabric so that it can stretch, and was commonly used in cuffs, bodices, and necklines in garments where buttons were undesirable before elastic? Smocking. Smocking is an embroidery technique used to gather fabric, allowing it to stretch and return to its original shape. Historically, before the widespread availability of elastic, smocking was a vital method for creating flexible and decorative elements in garments, particularly for cuffs, bodices, and necklines. Which English king asked the Pope to annul his marriage as he had married his brother's widow? Henry VIII. King Henry VIII of England famously sought an annulment from Pope Clement VII for his marriage to Catherine of Aragon, his deceased brother Arthur's widow. This desire for an annulment, largely driven by his need for a male heir and attraction to Anne Boleyn, ultimately led to England's break from the Roman Catholic Church and the English Reformation. What unit of work represents the work done to overcome a force of 1 dyne through a distance of 1 centimeter? ERG. An ERG is a unit of energy and work in the CGS, centimeter gram second, system of units. It is defined as the work done by a force of 1 dyne acting over a distance of 1 centimeter. While joules are the SI unit, Ergs are still recognized in some scientific contexts, especially in older physics literature. Who served as president of the International Olympic Committee from 1952 to 1972, known for opposing professionalism and politicization in sports, and proposing the elimination of team sports from the Summer Olympics? Avery Brindage. Avery Brindage, the fifth president of the International Olympic Committee, was a staunch proponent of amateurism during his long tenure from 1952 to 1972. He famously resisted the professionalization of sports and strongly opposed political interference in the games, advocating for the purity of the Olympic ideal amidst the Cold War era. During which major historical event did Winston Churchill begin his first term as British Prime Minister? World War II. Winston Churchill became Prime Minister of the United Kingdom on May 10, 1940, at a critical juncture during World War II, just as Germany was invading France. His leadership during the war is widely regarded as pivotal, inspiring the British people through challenging times. Which nation, during the 1990s, briefly functioned as a tax haven and illegal money laundering hub, and subsequently from 2001 to 2008, received aid from the Australian government for hosting an offshore migrant detention facility for asylum seekers? Nauru. Nauru, a small island nation in Micronesia, gained notoriety for its involvement in offshore finance and, more significantly, for its agreements with Australia to host controversial asylum seeker detention centers. This arrangement, particularly prominent from 2001 to 2008, highlighted complex issues of international migration policy, human rights, and the geopolitical vulnerabilities of small island states. Which country's politics saw the involvement of figures such as Maurice Yamogo, Lieutenant Col. Sangol Lamizana, Col. Sai Jarbo, Major Dr. Jean-Baptiste Ouedraogo, Captain Thomas Sankara, and Captain Blaise Compaoré between 1960 and 1987? Burkina Faso. The figures listed were all prominent political leaders and military officers in Burkina Faso, formerly Upper Volta, during a period of significant political instability and coups following its independence. Notably, Thomas Sankara, known as Africa's Che Guevara, implemented radical socio-economic reforms before being overthrown and killed by Blaise Compaoré, his former comrade. Which major mountain range spans across the South American countries of Argentina, Bolivia, Chile, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, and Venezuela? The Andes. The Andes is the longest continental mountain range in the world, extending for about 7,000 kilometers along the western edge of South America. It is a vital geographical feature, influencing the climate, biodiversity, and human settlements across 7 countries. By what collective name were Plácido Domingo, José Carreras, and Luciano Pavarotti popularly known? The Three Tenors. Plácido Domingo, José Carreras, and Luciano Pavarotti were 3 world-renowned operatic tenors who performed together as the Three Tenors. Their collaborations, particularly from 1990 onwards, brought classical music to a wider global audience, becoming a cultural phenomenon. According to Greek legend, which of the 9 muses was the muse of lyric poetry? Erato. In Greek mythology, the muses were the inspirational goddesses of literature, science, and the arts. Erato was specifically revered as the muse of lyric poetry, especially love and erotic poetry, often depicted with a lyre. What was the name of the country in West Africa which, in 1975, was renamed the People's Republic of Benin? Dahomey. The Republic of Dahomey, a former French colony in West Africa, was renamed the People's Republic of Benin in 1975, following a military coup that established a Marxist-Leninist government. The country reverted to the Republic of Benin in 1990. David Attenborough is best known for narrating what kind of TV program? Natural history. Sir David Attenborough is an iconic British broadcaster and natural historian, celebrated for his pioneering work in natural history documentaries. His programs, such as Planet Earth and Blue Planet, have significantly contributed to global environmental awareness and conservation efforts. The cities of Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Allentown, Erie, Reading, Scranton, Bethlehem, Altoona, and Harrisburg are in which U.S. state? Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is a prominent state in the Mid-Atlantic region of the United States, known for its significant historical role and diverse geography. Harrisburg is the state capital, while Philadelphia and Pittsburgh are its largest and most economically important cities. In Greek and Roman mythology, who is the son, with a twin sister, Artemis, of Zeus and Leto, who has been worshipped as a god of a number of responsibilities, including light, the sun, truth, prophecy, archery, medicine, healing, music, poetry and the arts? Apollo. Apollo is one of the most important and complex Olympic deities in classical Greek and Roman religion. He is the god of light, the sun, archery, music, poetry, healing, and prophecy, often associated with the Delphic oracle. What name is given to a young lion? Cub. A young lion is called a cub. This term is commonly used for the young of many large carnivorous mammals, including bears and tigers, reflecting a fundamental concept in zoology. What was the official date of the formation of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland? The 1st of January 1801. The United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland was officially formed on January 1, 1801, through the Acts of Union 1800. This union formally joined the Kingdom of Great Britain and the Kingdom of Ireland, creating a single sovereign state. What is the name for the act of murdering of one's own brother? Fratricide. Fratricide is the act of killing one's own brother. This term is derived from Latin, where frater means brother and cide means killer or act of killing, similar to terms like homicide or regicide. What is the name for the lump in a human throat? Adam's apple. The Adam's apple is the common term for the laryngeal prominence, a protrusion of the thyroid cartilage surrounding the larynx. It is typically more prominent in males due to the growth of the larynx during puberty, playing a role in voice deepening. Bernard and Phyllis Code and Maurice Bishop were involved with the politics of which country in 1983? Grenada. Bernard Code, Phyllis Code, and Maurice Bishop were key figures in the political turmoil in Grenada in 1983, specifically related to the People's Revolutionary Government. Maurice Bishop was overthrown and executed by elements of his own party, leading to the US-led invasion of the island. Retired professional wrestler Jesse "The Body" Ventura is a former governor of which US state? Minnesota. Jesse Ventura, a retired professional wrestler, served as the 38th governor of Minnesota from 1999 to 2003. He won the election as a candidate for the Reform Party, making him a notable figure in American political history for his unconventional background. Where are the Kasubi tombs, also known as the Sekabakas tombs, the burial grounds for 4 kings, which were badly damaged by fire on the 16th of March 2010? Kampala, Uganda. The Kasubi tombs in Kampala, Uganda, are a UNESCO World Heritage Site and the burial grounds for 4 Kabakas, kings, of the Buganda Kingdom. This sacred traditional site, crucial for the cultural identity of the Baganda people, suffered significant damage from a fire in 2010. The ratio of the input voltage to the output voltage of a transformer is directly proportional to what? The number of turns in the windings of the input and output coils. For an ideal transformer, the ratio of the input, primary, voltage to the output, secondary, voltage is directly proportional to the ratio of the number of turns in the primary coil to the number of turns in the secondary coil. This principle governs how transformers step up or step down AC voltages. What is the common name of the endangered Tecmarshenkas jiguru, usually found above 1,400 meters on the slopes of Queensland's highest mountains, which was discovered in 1981? The Battle-Frere skink. The Battle-Frere skink, Tecmarshenkas jiguru, is an endangered species endemic to the high-altitude slopes of Queensland's highest mountains in Australia, particularly Mount Battle-Frere. Discovered in 1981, this unique reptile is vulnerable due to its restricted habitat and sensitivity to environmental changes. The International Pageant of Pulchritude, held from 1926 to 1932, was the forerunner of what modern event? Miss Universe. The International Pageant of Pulchritude, held in Galveston, Texas, from 1926 to 1932, is considered the precursor to the modern Miss Universe competition. This historical event marked an early attempt at an international beauty contest, laying the groundwork for future global pageants. A teaching technique invented by Sarah Ann Glover, who adapted it from a number of earlier systems, and popularized by John Kirwan in the 19th century, is associated with what activity? Singing. The teaching technique referred to as tonic sol fa, a system for teaching singing and sight reading music, originally developed by Sarah Ann Glover and popularized by John Kirwan in the 19th century. It uses solmization syllables, do, re, mi, etc., and a movable, do to simplify musical notation and make singing more accessible. What city, also known as Hogbonu and Ajaccio, was the capital of Dahomey and is now the capital of the People's Republic of Benin? Porto Novo. Porto Novo is the official capital of Benin, located on an inlet of the Gulf of Guinea. It served as the capital of the Kingdom of Dahomey during French colonial rule and retains significant historical and cultural importance, including its traditional architecture. What were the weapons used mainly by infantrymen in the American Civil War? Rifles. Rifles, particularly muzzle-loading percussion rifles like the Springfield Model 1861 and Enfield Pattern 1853, were the primary firearms for infantry during the American Civil War. These rifled muskets offered greater accuracy and range than smoothbore muskets, though they were slower to reload. Arnold Patz received the U.S. Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2004 for his lifetime of work in what field? Ophthalmology. Arnold Patz was a distinguished American ophthalmologist who was awarded the U.S. Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2004 for his groundbreaking medical contributions. He discovered that excessive oxygen in incubators caused retinopathy of prematurity, ROP, in premature infants, a finding that dramatically reduced blindness in newborns. The plum Judy, painted lady, monarch, speckled wood, mallow skipper, and Zabulon skipper are varieties of what? Butterfly. These are all common and well-known species of butterflies. Butterflies are insects belonging to the order Lepidoptera, characterized by their often brightly colored wings and distinct life cycle of metamorphosis. Where is the region known as Transylvania? Romania. Transylvania is a historical region located in the central part of present-day Romania. It is renowned for its diverse landscapes, medieval towns, and a rich cultural heritage, often associated with the legend of Dracula. What was the cause of a state of emergency in Kenya from October 1952 to December 1959? Mau Mau Rebellion. The Mau Mau Rebellion was a significant anti-colonial insurgency that took place in British Kenya between 1952 and 1960. Led primarily by the Kikuyu people, the rebellion sought an end to British rule and demanded land reform, leading to a brutal counter-insurgency campaign by the British government. a compilation of inspirational letters to a young jazz student named Anthony, titled, To a Young Jazz Musician, has been published. Who authored these letters? Wynton Marsalis. Wynton Marsalis is a Pulitzer Prize-winning American trumpeter, composer, and educator. To a Young Jazz Musician is a compilation of letters he wrote to an aspiring musician, offering advice on jazz, life, and artistry, highlighting his role as a mentor. Pete Seeger, Woody Guthrie, and Joan Baez are prominently associated with what genre of music? Folk music. Pete Seeger, Woody Guthrie, and Joan Baez are iconic figures in American folk music. They used their music as a powerful tool for social and political commentary, influencing civil rights and protest movements throughout the 20th century. To which country does the term Gallic primarily refer? France. The term Gallic originates from Gaul, the ancient name for the region that largely corresponds to modern-day France. It is often used to describe things characteristic of France, its people, or its culture. English actress Lily Langtry was famously a mistress of which British monarch? Edward VII. Lily Langtry was a celebrated British actress and socialite during the Victorian and Edwardian eras. She was one of the many mistresses of Edward VII, then Prince of Wales, and their relationship was a prominent aspect of late 19th century high society. What historical period is generally considered to span from the fall of the Western Roman Empire in the 5th century to the beginning of the early modern period in the 16th century, characterized by the emergence of nation-states and European overseas expansion? The Middle Ages. The Middle Ages, also known as the medieval period, is a pivotal era in European history. It bridges antiquity and modernity, witnessing significant developments in political structures, religious institutions, and the gradual re-emergence of centralized power following the Roman collapse. Which Old English unit, approximately equal to 1/3 of an inch, 8.46 mm, forms the basis for the English and US shoe sizing systems? Barleycorn. The barleycorn was an ancient unit of length, traditionally based on the average length of a grain of barley. It became the fundamental increment for shoe sizing in both the English and American systems, where each shoe size typically increases by 1 barleycorn. The Russian city formerly known as Leningrad is now officially named what? St. Petersburg. Leningrad was the official name of the city from 1924 to 1991, honoring Vladimir Lenin. Following a referendum after the dissolution of the Soviet Union, the city reverted to its original name, St. Petersburg, which it had held since its founding by Peter the Great in 1703. An enophile is an individual who is a connoisseur or enthusiast of what? Wine. The term, enophile, is derived from Greek words, oinos, wine, and philos, loving. It refers to a person who has a deep appreciation and knowledge of wine, often involving its history, production, and various characteristics. Which fruit is used to make cider? Apples. Cider is an alcoholic beverage made from the fermented juice of apples. Specialized cider apple varieties are often cultivated, known for their balanced sugar, acid, and tannin content, crucial for the fermentation process. What name was given to members of the Protestant Reformed Church of France from the 16th to the 18th centuries, many of whom emigrated in the late 17th century, who were inspired by the writings of John Calvin in the 1530s? Huguenots. Huguenots were French Protestants, primarily Calvinists, who endured severe persecution during the 16th to 18th centuries. Their struggles, including the Saint Bartholomew's Day massacre and the revocation of the Edict of Nantes, led to a significant diaspora, particularly to Protestant countries. Sheep are aged by their teeth and are referred to by the number of permanent incisors that have erupted. About how old is a four-tooth? 1.5 to 2 years. In animal husbandry, the age of sheep is often estimated by the eruption of their permanent incisors. A four-tooth sheep indicates that 4 permanent incisors have fully erupted, a stage typically reached when the animal is between 1.5 and 2 years old. Which island was a major exporter of phosphate from 1907 until deposits ran out in the 1980s, and had the highest per capita income of any sovereign state in the world during the late 1960s and early 1970s? Nauru. Nauru, a small island nation in the Pacific, experienced an extraordinary economic boom due to its rich phosphate deposits, giving it the world's highest per capita income in the 1970s. However, the depletion of these resources led to severe economic decline and significant environmental degradation of the island's interior. Thomas Cranmer held what position during the reign of Henry VIII, between the 3rd of December 1533 and the 4th of December 1555? Archbishop of Canterbury. Thomas Cranmer was a central figure in the English Reformation, serving as Archbishop of Canterbury under Henry VIII and Edward VI. He was instrumental in establishing the Church of England's independence from Rome, facilitating Henry VIII's annulment, and authoring the foundational Book of Common Prayer. A proof of what major mathematics problem was given by Gregory Perelman in 2003, resulting in his being selected to receive the Fields Medal and being awarded the Millennium Prize in March 2010. Poincare conjecture. The Poincare conjecture, a fundamental problem in topology, was proven by Russian mathematician Grigory Perelman in 2003. Despite being awarded the Fields Medal and the Millennium Prize for his work, Perelman famously declined both, citing his disinterest in official recognition. What is the legal tender, face, value of the American Buffalo, a 24-karat gold bullion coin first offered for sale by the U.S. Mint on the 22nd of June 2006? 50 United States dollars. The American Buffalo is the United States' first 24-karat gold bullion coin, launched by the U.S. Mint in 2006. Although its market value fluctuates with the price of gold, its official legal tender face value is 50 United States dollars, providing government backing for its authenticity. What is the next in this series? 1 Corinthians, 2 Corinthians, Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians. Colossians. This series lists epistles from the New Testament of the Christian Bible, traditionally attributed to the Apostle Paul. These letters, known as Pauline epistles, were written to various early Christian communities, offering theological instruction and pastoral guidance. Colossians is the next book in this sequence of canonical order. What device is designed to measure a gravitational field and changes to it? Gravimeter. A gravimeter is an instrument used to measure the local gravitational field. It is crucial in geophysics for detecting variations in the Earth's gravity, which can indicate subsurface geological structures or changes in mass distribution. Which colony centered at Fort Christina, now in Wilmington, Delaware, that included parts of the now U.S. states of Delaware, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania was established in 1638, and in 1655 surrendered and was taken over by the Dutch? New Sweden. New Sweden was a Swedish colony in North America established in 1638, primarily in what is now Delaware, with parts extending into modern-day New Jersey and Pennsylvania. It was one of the earliest European settlements in the Delaware Valley before being conquered by the Dutch in 1655. What name was applied to lightly armed Russian horsemen? Cossacks. Cossacks were groups of predominantly East Slavic people who became known as members of democratic, semi-military communities, predominantly in Ukraine and southern Russia. They played a significant role in the history of Russia and Ukraine, serving as border guards and elite cavalry. What was the name of the British India Special Force, the brainchild of British Brigadier Ord Charles Wingate, that operated behind Japanese lines in Burma and India in 1943-1944 during World War II? The Chindits. The Chindits were a special operations force of the British Indian Army during World War II, formed to operate deep behind Japanese lines in Burma. Led by Brigadier Ord Wingate, they conducted long-range penetration missions to disrupt Japanese communications and supply lines, playing a unique role in the Burma campaign. In May 2010, at the age of 13, Jordan Romero became the youngest person to do what? Climb Mount Everest. In May 2010, at just 13 years old, Jordan Romero achieved the extraordinary feat of becoming the youngest person to successfully climb Mount Everest. This remarkable accomplishment set a new world record for mountaineering and garnered significant international attention. What weapon used in the Middle Ages had the cord of a bow fixed in a notch and an iron bolt released from it by a trigger? Crossbow. The crossbow was a powerful and influential ranged weapon that emerged during the Middle Ages. It differed from traditional bows by featuring a horizontal bow mounted on a stalk, with a trigger mechanism to release a bolt, making it easier to aim and hold tension than a longbow. The Victoria Falls is on which river? Zambezi. Victoria Falls, one of the world's most spectacular waterfalls, is located on the Zambezi River at the border between Zambia and Zimbabwe. Known locally as Mosi Oe Tanya, the smoke that thunders, it is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and a major tourist attraction. Australopithecus sediba, an early hominid whose only discovered remains date to 1.78 to 1.95 million years ago, is known from two partial skeletons discovered where? South Africa. Australopithecus sediba is an extinct species of hominin, significant for its mosaic of primitive and advanced features, suggesting a transitional form in human evolution. Its remains, including two partial skeletons, were discovered in the Malapa Cave, South Africa, providing crucial insights into early hominin morphology and behavior. What is the name of the thick dark green fluid manufactured by the liver? Bile. Bile is a digestive fluid produced by the liver, stored in the gallbladder, and released into the small intestine. Its primary function is to emulsify fats, breaking them down into smaller droplets to facilitate their digestion and absorption by lipase enzymes. About how long does it take for the Moon to make one orbit of the Earth? 27 days. The Moon takes approximately 27.3 days to complete one sidereal orbit around the Earth, which is the time it takes to return to the same position relative to the background stars. However, due to Earth's simultaneous orbit around the Sun, the time from one new moon to the next, synodic period, is about 29.5 days. What is featured on the flag of Mexico? An eagle eating a snake. The central emblem of the Mexican flag depicts a golden eagle perched on a prickly pear cactus, devouring a rattlesnake. This imagery is rooted in an ancient Aztec legend, which prophesied that the Mexico people would find their new home where they saw an eagle eating a snake on a cactus, leading to the foundation of Tenochtitlan, now Mexico City. What French political scandal involved the sentencing of an artillery officer to life imprisonment for treason in 1894, who was exonerated and reinstated to the French army in 1906 after the discovery that the French government had fabricated evidence? The Dreyfus Affair. The Dreyfus Affair was a major political scandal that divided France from 1894 until 1906. It involved the wrongful conviction of Captain Alfred Dreyfus, an artillery officer of Jewish descent, for treason based on fabricated evidence. The affair exposed deep-seated anti-Semitism and injustice within the French military and society, ultimately leading to significant reforms in French law and politics. Who is quoted as saying, "If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants." Isaac Newton. This famous quote, attributed to Isaac Newton in a 1676 letter to Robert Hooke, signifies the cumulative nature of scientific progress. It acknowledges that his groundbreaking discoveries were built upon the accumulated knowledge and work of previous thinkers and scientists. The metaphor emphasizes intellectual indebtedness and the incremental development of understanding. Which American medical doctor, professor, and molecular biologist was awarded the 2003 Nobel Prize in Chemistry for his discovery of aquaporins, water channel proteins that move water molecules through the cell membrane? Peter Ager. Peter Ager shared the 2003 Nobel Prize in Chemistry for his groundbreaking discovery of aquaporins. These specialized proteins form channels in cell membranes, allowing water molecules to rapidly pass through while blocking other molecules. This discovery fundamentally changed our understanding of water transport in cells, with implications for fields ranging from kidney function to plant physiology. What action did Daniel O'Connell take in 1828 and 1829 as part of his campaign to remove restrictions on Roman Catholics in the UK? He stood for election. Daniel O'Connell, known as the Liberator, spearheaded the Catholic emancipation movement in Ireland and the UK. In 1828, despite being legally barred from holding office due to his Catholicism, he won a by-election for County Clare. His victory created a political crisis, forcing the British government to pass the Roman Catholic Relief Act of 1829, which largely granted Catholics the right to sit in Parliament and hold most public offices. What is the name given to a randomly derived change to the nucleotide sequence of the genetic material of an organism? Mutation. Mutation is a fundamental concept in biology, describing random changes in DNA or RNA sequences. These changes can be beneficial, harmful, or neutral, driving evolutionary processes and genetic variation within species. Ronald Ross won a Nobel Prize in Medicine for his work on what subject? Malaria. Sir Ronald Ross was a British medical doctor who received the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine in 1902. His groundbreaking work established that malaria is transmitted by mosquitoes, a discovery crucial for developing strategies to combat the disease. The word nebula derives from the Latin word for what? Cloud. The term nebula originates from the Latin word for cloud. In astronomy, a nebula refers to an interstellar cloud of dust, hydrogen, helium, and other ionized gases, often the birthplace of stars. Peter the Hermit is known for leading what group in 1095? The First Crusade. Peter the Hermit was a French priest who played a significant role in leading the People's Crusade, which was part of the First Crusade in 1096. His impassioned preaching inspired thousands of common people to march towards Jerusalem, preceding the main Crusader armies. What is the unconventional use of TLDs in domain names, such as using TV, FM and AM to denote television or radio stations, known as domain hacks? Domain hacking refers to the creative and unconventional use of top-level domains, TLDs, to form complete words or phrases, often combining the domain name and the TLD. This technique can create memorable and clever domain names, such as del.isio.us or goo.gl. What was the name given to regulations governing import tariffs designed to protect the prices of cereal crop prices in Britain against competition from less expensive foreign imports between 1815 and 1846? The Corn Laws. The Corn Laws were a series of protectionist tariffs on imported grain enforced in Great Britain between 1815 and 1846. Designed to protect domestic landowners and farmers, they kept grain prices high but were eventually repealed due to public pressure and economic arguments for free trade. Which US state produces the most maple syrup? Vermont. Vermont is the leading producer of maple syrup in the United States, accounting for a significant portion of the country's total output. The state's climate and abundant sugar maple trees provide ideal conditions for sap collection and syrup production. What Roman road, construction of which began in 312 BC, connected Rome to Brindisi in southeast Italy? Appian Way. The Appian Way, via Appia, was one of the earliest and most strategically important Roman roads, primarily built for military transport. Its construction began in 312 BC under the censor Appius Claudius Caecus, connecting Rome to Brindisi, a crucial port city on the Adriatic Sea. The American Landrace, Australian Yorkshire, British Landrace, Bulgarian White, Gascon, Hereford, Criscopolje, Mangalitsa, Moody Woody, Red Wattle, Tamworth, and Worcestershire are all types of what animal? Pigs. These names represent various breeds of domestic pigs, Sus scrofa domesticus, from around the world. Each breed possesses distinct characteristics, often bred for specific purposes such as meat production, resilience, or unique fat composition. What word, originally referring to a large, flawless diamond, is now used to signify a model of excellence or perfection of any kind? Paragon. The term paragon derives from Middle French and Italian, initially used in gemology to describe a perfectly formed and exceptionally large diamond. Over time, its meaning evolved to represent an ideal example or a person or thing regarded as a perfect embodiment of a particular quality. What was the middle name of the acclaimed writer G.B. Shaw? Bernard. George Bernard Shaw (1856–1950) was an influential Irish playwright, critic, polemicist, and political activist. He is widely considered one of the greatest dramatists of the English language, best known for plays like Pygmalion and Man and Superman. What was the primary activity of the group founded in 1970 by Andreas Baader, Gudrun Ensler, Horst Mahler, and Ulrike Meinhof? Terrorism. This question refers to the Red Army faction, RAF, also known as the Baader-Meinhof Group, a far-left militant organization active in West Germany from the 1970s to the 1990s. The group engaged in acts of terrorism, including bombings, kidnappings, and assassinations, aiming to instigate a revolution against the perceived capitalist and imperialist West German state. In the 17th century, who invented the measurement unit called the chain, used in surveying, which consists of 100 inches, links? Edmund Gunter. Edmund Gunter, 1581–1626, was an English mathematician and surveyor who invented Gunter's chain in 1620. This measuring device, 66 feet long and divided into 100 links, revolutionized land surveying by simplifying calculations and making land area measurements more standardized and accessible. In 1904, what innovation was used for the first time by a warship on the high seas during a time of war by the Russian cruiser, Rossiya? Observation balloon. The deployment of an observation balloon by the Russian cruiser, Rossiya, in 1904 marked a pioneering instance of aerial reconnaissance by a warship during naval combat. This early use demonstrated the potential of airborne platforms for tactical intelligence gathering, predating widespread use of aircraft in warfare. On October 9, 2009, who was elected for an 8-year term to the International Olympic Committee, IOC, succeeding former Danish member Kai Holm? Frederik, Crown Prince of Denmark. Crown Prince Frederik of Denmark was elected to the International Olympic Committee in 2009, serving an 8-year term. His membership highlights the connection between prominent figures and international sporting bodies, often aimed at promoting sports and Olympic values globally. The macrocarpa tree is indigenous to which continent? North America. The macrocarpa tree, scientifically known as Hesperocyparus macrocarpa, is native to the central coast of California in North America. It is also commonly referred to as Monterey cypress, recognized for its distinctive conical shape and adaptability to coastal conditions. What is the name of the enclosure or stand that houses a ship's compass? Binnacle. A binnacle is a housing on the deck of a ship, typically near the helm, that contains the magnetic compass. Its purpose is to protect the compass from the elements and to shield it from magnetic interference caused by metal components on the ship. Identify the next leader in this historical sequence: Muhammad Naguib, Jamal Abdel Nasser, Muhammad Naguib, Jamal Abdel Nasser, Anwar el-Sadat, Sufi Abu Talib, Hosni Mubarak, Atef Abiad. Hosni Mubarak. This sequence traces key leaders in Egypt's modern history, including presidents and prime ministers. Hosni Mubarak served as president of Egypt for nearly 30 years from 1981 to 2011, making him a dominant figure following the assassination of Anwar el-Sadat and a brief interim period. Which organ in the human body is responsible for removing old red blood cells, storing a blood reserve in case of hemorrhagic shock, and recycling iron? Spleen. The spleen is a vital organ in the lymphatic system with multiple functions, including filtering blood, removing old or damaged red blood cells, and recycling iron from these cells. It also plays a crucial role in immune response and serves as a blood reservoir, particularly important during instances of blood loss or shock. What was the name of the insurrection, considered the most significant uprising in Ireland since the 1798 rebellion, led by schoolteacher and barrister Patrick Pearse from April 24 to April 30, 1916, with the objective of establishing an independent Irish republic? The Easter Rising. The Easter Rising was a pivotal event in Irish history, occurring in April 1916 when Irish Republicans launched an armed insurrection against British rule. Though quickly suppressed, it galvanized support for Irish independence and significantly contributed to the subsequent War of Independence and the eventual establishment of the Irish Free State. In which decade was John F. Kennedy born? 1910s. John F. Kennedy, the 35th U.S. President, was born on May 29, 1917, placing his birth in the 1910s. His presidency was marked by significant domestic and international events. During the reign of Ashurbanipal in the 7th century BC, the Shusha-Babylon highway became the first recorded example of what? Toll road. Ashurbanipal was a powerful king of the Neo-Assyrian Empire. The Shusha-Babylon highway's use as a toll road during his reign in the 7th century BC demonstrates early forms of infrastructure development and state-regulated revenue generation in ancient civilizations. Florida produces 74% of which citrus fruit grown in the USA, with 95% of it processed, mainly for the official state beverage. Oranges. Florida is a leading producer of oranges in the United States, often referred to as the Sunshine State. A vast majority of its orange crop is processed, primarily for orange juice, which is the official state beverage. What is both the botanical name and the English common name of a genus of flowering plants, sometimes also called sugar bushes, that were named in 1735 by Carolus Linnaeus? Geranium. Geranium is a genus of flowering plants, formerly named by Carolus Linnaeus in 1735, who is considered the father of modern taxonomy. This classification is part of the binomial nomenclature system that standardizes scientific names. The term, sugar bushes, is another common name sometimes associated with these plants. Who became the first president of the French Republic by popular vote in 1848, became dictator after a coup in 1851, then ruled as Emperor of the French, from 1852 to September 1870, when he was captured in the Franco-Prussian War? Napoleon III. Napoleon III, nephew of Napoleon Bonaparte, served as the first president of the Second French Republic before declaring himself emperor of the Second French Empire. His reign, from 1852 to 1870, ended with his capture during the Franco-Prussian War. This period was marked by significant internal reforms and an ambitious foreign policy. What word describes the surface of the palms on the human body? Volar. In human anatomy, the term volar refers to the palm of the hand or the sole of the foot. It is commonly used in medical and anatomical contexts to precisely describe the location of structures or injuries on these surfaces, distinguishing them from dorsal or plantar aspects. What is the only major U.S. city, which was founded in 1701 by Frenchman Antoine de la Motte Cadillac, that looks south to Canada? Detroit. Detroit, Michigan, founded by Antoine de la Motte Cadillac in 1701, holds the unique distinction among major U.S. cities of being located north of a Canadian city. From Detroit, one looks south across the Detroit River to Windsor, Ontario, Canada, due to the river's east-west flow. What island nation in the South Pacific Ocean was, from 1906, jointly managed by France and the UK as the New Hebrides, and became a republic in 1980? Vanuatu. Vanuatu is an island nation in the South Pacific Ocean, historically known as the New Hebrides. It was governed as an Anglo-French condominium from 1906 until it achieved independence in 1980, becoming the Republic of Vanuatu. Its unique colonial history involved joint administration by two European powers. Minamata disease, a neurological syndrome with symptoms including ataxia, numbness, general weakness, narrowing of vision and damage to hearing and speech, and even insanity, paralysis, coma and death within weeks, is caused by severe poisoning by what? Mercury. Minamata disease is a severe neurological disorder resulting from mercury poisoning, specifically methylmercury. It was first identified in Minamata Bay, Japan, in 1956, caused by the release of industrial wastewater containing methylmercury. This disease serves as a critical case study in environmental toxicology and public health. Why was the Eiffel Tower built? As part of the 1889 World's Fair. The Eiffel Tower was constructed as the iconic entrance arch for the 1889 World's Fair, Exposition Universelle, in Paris. This international exhibition commemorated the 100th anniversary of the French Revolution. Originally intended to be temporary, it quickly became a permanent global landmark. What was the first of the World Trade Center buildings to be rebuilt after 9/11? 7 World Trade Center. 7 World Trade Center was the first building at the World Trade Center site to be fully rebuilt and reopened after the devastating attacks of September 11, 2001. Its reconstruction, completed in 2006, symbolized a significant step in the broader revitalization of Lower Manhattan. Which active volcano is the second highest peak in Mexico? Popocatépetl. Popocatépetl is an active stratovolcano located in central Mexico, ranking as the country's second highest peak. Its activity is closely monitored due to its proximity to Mexico City and surrounding populated areas. Which country had, at various times, included areas known as Bosnia, Herzegovina, Croatia, Macedonia, Montenegro, Slovenia, Serbia, Vojvodina, Kosovo, Istria and Rijeka? Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia was a country in Southeast and Central Europe that existed in various forms from 1918 to 2006. It encompassed a diverse range of ethnic and religious groups and underwent significant geopolitical changes, eventually dissolving into multiple independent states. Who was the founder of the Christian Science movement? Mary Baker Eddy. Mary Baker Eddy founded the Christian Science movement in the latter half of the 19th century, with the publication of her seminal work, Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures, in 1875. The movement emphasizes spiritual healing and the power of prayer. What is the ninth month of the Islamic calendar, the month of fasting, in which Muslims refrain from eating, drinking, smoking, and so on from dawn to sunset? Ramadan. Ramadan is the ninth month of the Islamic calendar, observed by Muslims worldwide as a month of fasting, prayer, reflection, and community. During Ramadan, Muslims abstain from food, drink, and other physical needs from dawn until sunset. What thin, circular structure in the eye controls the diameter and size of the pupils and the amount of light reaching the pupil? Iris. The iris is the pigmented, circular structure in the eye that controls the amount of light entering the pupil. It does this by adjusting the pupil's size, dilating in low light and constricting in bright light, thus regulating visual input. The Easter Rising, an insurrection staged during Easter week 1916 with the aim of ending British rule, was where? Ireland. The Easter Rising was an armed insurrection in Ireland during Easter week 1916, primarily in Dublin, aimed at ending British rule and establishing an independent Irish Republic. Though suppressed, it significantly influenced the subsequent Irish War of Independence and the eventual formation of the Irish Free State. What was initiated by British conductor Sir Henry Wood? The Proms. The Proms, formerly known as the BBC Proms, were initiated by Sir Henry Wood in 1895. This annual summer series of classical music concerts, held primarily at the Royal Albert Hall in London, aims to bring classical music to the widest possible audience. The Mystery of Edwin Drood is the unfinished novel by which author? Charles Dickens. The Mystery of Edwin Drood is the final, unfinished novel by the renowned English author Charles Dickens. Dickens died in 1870, leaving the mystery of Edwin Drood's disappearance unresolved, which has since fascinated literary scholars and readers. What originated as a French folk dance, notated in 4 quarters or 2 halves time at moderate tempo, with a distinctive rhythmic feature, as phrases begin in the middle of the bar, on the 3rd quarter note, creating a half-measure upbeat? Gavotte. The gavotte is a traditional French folk dance that became popular as a court dance in the 17th and 18th centuries. It is characterized by its moderate tempo, double meter, 4 quarters or 2 halves time, and a distinctive rhythmic feature where phrases often begin on the 3rd beat, creating a unique upbeat feel. What country, an ideal of the Illyrian movement, began to become a reality after the 1918 collapse of Habsburg Austria-Hungary at the end of World War I, and was formally renamed as a kingdom in 1929? Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia emerged as a political entity after World War I, embodying the ideals of the Illyrian movement which sought to unite South Slavs. Initially formed in 1918 as the Kingdom of Serbs, Croats and Slovenes, it was formally renamed the Kingdom of Yugoslavia in 1929, signifying a unified South Slavic state. The national flag of which country differs from the Italian tricolor only because it contains the national coat of arms? Mexico. The national flag of Mexico shares the green, white, and red vertical stripes of the Italian tricolor. However, the Mexican flag is distinguished by the prominent display of its national coat of arms, featuring an eagle devouring a snake on a nopal cactus, centered on the white stripe. What part of speech is the word the? Definite article. The word the is classified as a definite article in English grammar. Articles are a type of determiner used before nouns to specify their reference, indicating that the noun it precedes refers to a specific or particular item. What is the chemical symbol for helium? He. Helium, He, is the second lightest element and the second most abundant in the observable universe. It is a noble gas, characterized by its inertness and lack of color, odor, or taste. What macromolecules are formed from linear chains of amino acids? Proteins. Proteins are essential macromolecules in all living organisms, performing a vast array of functions. They are polymers, formed by the linkage of numerous amino acid monomers through peptide bonds, creating long linear chains that then fold into specific three-dimensional structures. The Red Ensign, a flag originating in the early 17th century as a British ensign for the Royal Navy, is currently primarily used by which group? The British Merchant Navy. The Red Ensign, historically a British maritime flag, is now predominantly associated with the British Merchant Navy. It serves as the civil ensign for British registered civilian vessels, distinguishing them from naval ships that fly the White Ensign. In what year did homosexuality between consenting adults become legal across the entire United Kingdom? 1982. While homosexuality was decriminalized in England and Wales by the Sexual Offences Act 1967, it took longer for similar reforms to be enacted throughout the UK. Northern Ireland decriminalized homosexual acts between consenting adults in 1982, aligning its laws with the rest of the United Kingdom. What early 18th century English club in London, known for its strong political and literary associations, had members including writers William Congreve, Jonathan Swift, and Joseph Addison, and politicians the Duke of Marlborough and Sir Robert Walpole? The Kit Kat Club. The Kit Kat Club was an influential early 18th century English club of prominent literary and political figures. Its members were largely Whigs and intellectuals, and the club played a significant role in shaping British cultural and political discourse during the Augustan Age. In the 1970 UK general election, who was elected MP for North Antrim, became the longest-serving MP from Northern Ireland, and led the Democratic Unionist Party from 1971 to 2008? Ian Paisley. Ian Paisley was a significant Northern Irish politician and Protestant evangelical minister. He co-founded the Democratic Unionist Party, DUP, and led it for nearly 4 decades, playing a central role in Northern Irish politics during the Troubles and its subsequent peace process. The river Volga runs through which capital city? Moscow. The Volga River is Europe's longest river, flowing through central and southern Russia into the Caspian Sea. Although it doesn't directly flow through Moscow, the city is historically and economically connected to the Volga basin via the Moscow Canal and its tributaries. Who was the first female, the first Californian, and the first Italian American to hold the post of Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives? Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi is a prominent American politician who served as the Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives for 2 separate terms. She made history as the first woman, first Californian, and first Italian American to hold this powerful position, becoming one of the most influential figures in American politics. What is a sultan's wife called? Sultana. A sultana is the title used for a female monarch or sovereign, specifically the wife, mother, or daughter of a sultan. The term signifies royalty and power within various Islamic monarchical systems, notably in historical contexts like the Ottoman Empire. What country in Southeast Asia, located approximately 640 kilometers, 400 miles, northwest of Australia and occupying half of one island and 2 smaller ones, was colonized by Portugal in the 16th century, declared independence on the 28th of November 1975, was invaded by Indonesia 9 days later, and became a sovereign state on the 20th of May 2002? East Timor. East Timor, officially Timor-Leste, gained full sovereignty on May 20, 2002, marking the culmination of a long struggle for independence. Its history includes centuries of Portuguese colonial rule, a brief period of self-declaration, and a subsequent occupation by Indonesia until an unsupervised referendum led to its final independence. What was the nickname for a 1913 British Act of Parliament that allowed suffragettes on hunger strike to be released from prison when they became ill? The Cat and Mouse Act. The Cat and Mouse Act was the popular name for the Prisoners' Temporary Discharge for Ill Health Act 1913 in the United Kingdom. It allowed authorities to temporarily release suffragettes who were severely weakened by hunger strikes, only to rearrest them once they had recovered sufficiently. This measure was designed to prevent the women from dying in prison and becoming martyrs for the suffrage movement. Since 1965, where has the headquarters of the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, been located? Vienna, Austria. OPEC, the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, is an intergovernmental organization founded in 1960. Its main objective is to coordinate and unify the petroleum policies of its member countries and ensure the stabilization of oil markets. The organization officially moved its headquarters to Vienna, Austria, in 1965. Ralph Nader's 1965 book, Unsafe at Any Speed, targeted which car? Chevrolet Corvair. Ralph Nader's seminal 1965 book, Unsafe at Any Speed, was a powerful critique of the American automobile industry's safety practices, with a significant focus on the design flaws of the Chevrolet Corvair. The book played a pivotal role in raising public awareness about consumer safety and contributed to the passage of key legislation like the National Traffic and Motor Vehicle Safety Act of 1966. In which country is the city of Dundee? Scotland. Dundee is Scotland's fourth largest city, situated on the north bank of the Firth of Tay. Historically, it gained prominence for its jute industry, shipbuilding, and confectionery, particularly marmalade, earning it the moniker, City of Discovery. Tom Stoppard's play, Rock and Roll, which premiered in 2006, is set in Cambridge, England, and which other city? Prague. Tom Stoppard's Rock and Roll explores the political and cultural upheavals in Czechoslovakia, specifically Prague, from 1968 to 1990, contrasted with the intellectual freedom of Cambridge. The play uses rock music as a metaphor for freedom and rebellion, intertwining personal stories with historical events like the Prague Spring and Velvet Revolution. Which British laws, introduced by the Importation Act of 1815 and repealed in 1846, exemplified British mercantilism and whose abolition signified a crucial move towards free trade? The Corn Laws. The Corn Laws were protectionist tariffs on imported grain in Great Britain, primarily benefiting landowners by keeping domestic grain prices high. Their repeal in 1846, largely due to the efforts of the Anti-Corn Law League and the Irish potato famine, marked a pivotal shift towards free trade principles in British economic policy. Who was the President of the USA when the first shots of the American Civil War were fired at Fort Sumter? Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was the 16th President of the United States, serving from 1861 until his assassination in 1865. The bombardment of Fort Sumter in April 1861 marked the beginning of the American Civil War, a conflict that defined his presidency and ultimately led to the abolition of slavery. Which city is associated with the relic claimed to be Jesus Christ's burial sheet? Turin. The Shroud of Turin is a linen cloth bearing the faint image of a man, believed by many to be the burial shroud of Jesus Christ. It is kept in the Royal Chapel of Turin Cathedral, Italy, and has been the subject of intense scientific and religious debate regarding its authenticity. What position represents the head of government in Germany? Chancellor. The Chancellor is the head of government in Germany, similar to a prime minister in many parliamentary systems. This position holds significant executive power and is elected by the Bundestag, the German parliament. Which movement was begun in 1909 by Richard Sherman, a German schoolteacher, and Wilhelm Munker, a conservationist? Youth hostels. The youth hostel movement, founded in Germany in 1909 by Richard Sherman and Wilhelm Munker, aimed to provide affordable accommodation for young travelers. This initiative promoted education, cultural exchange, and appreciation for nature among youth. What Hindi song composed by A.R. Rahman and Gulzar won an Academy Award for Best Original Song and a Grammy Award for Best Song for a Motion Picture in 2008? Jai Ho. Jai Ho, composed by A.R. Rahman with lyrics by Gulzar, gained international acclaim by winning an Academy Award for Best Original Song in 2008. It was featured in the film, Slumdog Millionaire, and also received a Grammy Award for Best Song for a Motion Picture. Former New York City Police Chief Bernard Kerik, appointed U.S. Homeland Security Chief in 2004, was imprisoned for 4 years in February 2010 for what reason? Tax fraud. Bernard Kerik, former NYC Police Chief and a nominee for U.S. Homeland Security Secretary, was sentenced to 4 years in prison in 2010. His imprisonment was primarily due to charges of tax fraud and making false statements to the government. In which country is the city of Aberdeen? Scotland. Aberdeen is a major city in Scotland, known as the Granite City, due to its distinctive grey stone buildings. It is a significant port and has historically been a centre for the fishing and shipbuilding industries. Whose first novel, The Lovers, after being rejected by 26 publishers, won a Hugo Award in 1953? Philip Jose Farmer. Philip Jose Farmer's debut novel, The Lovers, an influential work of science fiction, won a Hugo Award in 1953, despite initial rejections from numerous publishers. This award recognized its significant contribution to the genre. Which pope was elected in 1414, ending the situation where there were multiple popes? Martin V. Pope Martin V was elected in 1417, not 1414, at the Council of Constance, which convened from 1414 to 1418. His election effectively ended the Western Schism, a period marked by multiple rival claimants to the papacy, and was crucial for restoring unity to the Roman Catholic Church. What was the occupation of Edmund Hillary, the first man, with Sherpa Tenzing Norgay, to reach the summit of Mount Everest in 1953? Beekeeper. Before his historic ascent of Mount Everest in 1953, Sir Edmund Hillary was a beekeeper in New Zealand. This pioneering expedition with Sherpa Tenzing Norgay marked a monumental achievement in human exploration and mountaineering. Which country occupies the islands called Luzon, Panay, Negros, Cebu, Mindanao, Basilan, Sulu, and Tawi-Tawi? Philippines. The Philippines is an archipelagic nation in Southeast Asia, comprising over 7,000 islands. Luzon, Mindanao, Panay, Negros, Cebu, Basilan, Sulu, and Tawi-Tawi are among its major islands, significant for their geography, population, and economic activity. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is a stock market index that shows how stocks of large, publicly owned companies based in the USA have traded during a standard stock market trading session. How many companies' stocks does it track? 30. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, DJIA, is a stock market index that tracks the performance of 30 large, publicly traded companies based in the United States. It serves as one of the oldest and most frequently cited indicators of the overall health and direction of the US stock market. Where was the body of Roberto Calvi, an Italian banker dubbed God's banker by the press, found by a passing postman on the 18th of June 1982? Blackfriars Bridge, London. Roberto Calvi's death was a major financial scandal in the 1980s, often linked to the Vatican Bank and the P2 Masonic Lodge. His mysterious death under Blackfriars Bridge in London sparked numerous investigations and conspiracy theories, making it a significant historical event in financial and political history. About 90% of the world's extractable material, used for the manufacture of ornamental objects and jewelry, is in the Kaliningrad Oblast of Russia on the Baltic Sea. What type of material is this? Amber. Amber, fossilized tree resin, is highly prized for ornamental objects and jewelry. The Kaliningrad Oblast in Russia, specifically the Yanterny amber mining complex, is globally renowned for its vast deposits, accounting for a significant majority of the world's extractable amber. A famous opera by Rossini is about the barber of where? Seville. The Barber of Seville, Il Barbiere di Siviglia, is one of Gioacchino Rossini's most popular operas, a comic masterpiece first performed in 1816. It is renowned for its witty libretto and vibrant music, particularly the iconic aria, Lago al Factotum. What country surrounds the self-declared Principality of Hutt River, founded in April 1970 by His Royal Highness Prince Leonard, who rules with his family including his wife Princess Shirley and their son, Crown Prince Ian, which issues its own car registrations and currency and pays no taxes? Australia. The Principality of Hutt River was a self-declared micronation located in Western Australia, founded in 1970 by Leonard Castley. It claimed to have seceded from Australia, issued its own currency and stamps, and was seen as a unique legal challenge to sovereignty until its dissolution in 2020. What was the Hindenburg Line? A system of defenses in northeastern France during World War I. The Hindenburg Line, Siegfriedstellung in German, was an extensive system of German fortifications built during World War I in northeastern France. Constructed in 1916-17, it was designed as a strategic defensive position to shorten the German front and economize on manpower. George Gershwin wrote a piece of music called Rhapsody in what? Blue. Rhapsody in Blue is a seminal musical composition by American composer George Gershwin, blending elements of classical music with jazz influences. Commissioned by Paul Whiteman, it premiered in 1924 and became an iconic piece of 20th-century American music. The promession technique, announced in May 2010, was proposed to be used for what? Burial. Promession is an environmentally friendly burial technique that involves freeze-drying the body using liquid nitrogen, followed by gentle vibration to reduce it to an organic powder. The process aims to minimize ecological impact compared to traditional burial or cremation, returning the body's nutrients to the earth. What subregion of Oceania, comprising hundreds of small islands in the western Pacific Ocean, includes Guam, Nauru, the Marshall Islands, and Kiribati? Micronesia. Micronesia is a subregion of Oceania known for its numerous small islands in the western Pacific Ocean. Key island groups and nations within Micronesia include Guam, Nauru, the Marshall Islands, and Kiribati, making it a significant geographical area. What is the National Intelligence Agency of Israel? The Mossad. The Mossad is the National Intelligence Agency of Israel, primarily responsible for intelligence collection, covert operations, and counterterrorism activities abroad. It is one of the world's most renowned intelligence organizations. What are the names of the two largest islands in the Zanzibar archipelago in the Indian Ocean off the coast of Africa? Unguja and Pemba. The Zanzibar archipelago, located in the Indian Ocean off the coast of Tanzania, is famous for its historical significance and natural beauty. Its two largest and most prominent islands are Unguja, often referred to as Zanzibar Island, and Pemba. The Cultural Revolution was a period of widespread social and political upheaval between 1966 and 1976, resulting in nationwide chaos and economic disarray in which country? The People's Republic of China. The Cultural Revolution, 1966 to 1976, was a socio-political movement in China launched by Mao Zedong, aimed at preserving true communist ideology by purging traditional and capitalist elements from Chinese society. It led to widespread chaos, purges, and significant economic and cultural disruption. What is the name for the branch of astronomy that relates to precise measurements and explanations of the positions and movements of celestial bodies? Astrometry. Astrometry is a fundamental branch of astronomy focused on precisely measuring the positions, distances, and movements of celestial objects. It is crucial for understanding stellar kinematics, the dynamics of star clusters, and the structure of the Milky Way galaxy. What mountain-based military camp in Frederick County, Maryland, is used as a country retreat for the President of the USA and their guests? Camp David. Camp David is a secluded country retreat for the President of the United States, located in Catoctin Mountain Park in Frederick County, Maryland. It has been used for numerous high-level meetings, peace negotiations, and as a private getaway for presidents and their families since the 1940s. How did Umar Farooq Abdulmutalla, a Nigerian man, become a global news headline on December 25, 2009? By attempting to detonate explosives on an airplane. Umar Farooq Abdulmutalla, known as the underwear bomber, attempted to detonate plastic explosives hidden in his underwear on Northwest Airlines Flight 253 as it approached Detroit, Michigan, on Christmas Day 2009. This incident led to increased security measures at airports worldwide, including advanced imaging technology and strengthened screening protocols. Which is the largest of the Channel Islands, a British Crown dependency? Jersey. Jersey is the largest and most populous of the Channel Islands, an archipelago in the English Channel off the coast of Normandy, France. It is a British Crown dependency, self-governing with its own legal and financial systems, though the UK is responsible for its defence and international representation. What is the primary subject of the Zhou Bai Sung Jing, the arithmetical classic of the Gnomon and the circular paths of heaven, one of the oldest and most renowned Chinese texts, originating from the Zhou dynasty and further developed during the Ha dynasty? Mathematics. The Zhou Bai Sung Jing is a foundational text in ancient Chinese mathematics and astronomy, dating from the Zhou and Ha dynasties. It primarily discusses mathematical concepts, including the Pythagorean theorem, which is central to its astronomical applications and calculations related to calendars and cosmology. In animal husbandry, sheep are aged by the number of permanent incisors that have erupted. Approximately how old is a sheep referred to as a six-tooth? 2 to 3 years. The age of a sheep can be estimated by examining its teeth, specifically the eruption pattern of its permanent incisors. A six-tooth sheep, indicating that 6 permanent incisors have erupted, is typically between 2 and 3 years old, providing a practical method for farmers to assess the animal's maturity and health. Which of Britain's Labour Prime Ministers served for the longest continuous term and the longest time overall? Tony Blair. Tony Blair served as the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom from 1997 to 2007, a decade-long tenure that makes him the longest-serving Labour Prime Minister. His period in office was marked by significant policy changes and international engagements, including the Iraq War. What is the name for the longest side of a right-angled triangle? Hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is the side opposite the right angle in a right-angled triangle and is always the longest side. Its length can be calculated using the Pythagorean theorem, which states that the square of the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the squares of the other two sides. Which country gained independence from the United Kingdom on the 14th of August 1947 and subsequently became a republic in 1956? Pakistan. Pakistan emerged as an independent nation from British rule on August 14, 1947, following the partition of British India. It transitioned into an Islamic republic in 1956, establishing its own constitution and severing final ties with the British monarchy. To what does the term radiology refer? X-rays. Radiology is a medical specialty that utilizes medical imaging techniques, such as X-rays, to diagnose and treat diseases. X-rays, discovered by Wilhelm Röntgen, are a form of electromagnetic radiation used to create images of the inside of the body. Who was the daughter of Rodrigo Borgia, later Pope Alexander VI, and Vannozza di Catane, one of his many mistresses? Lucrezia Borgia. Lucrezia Borgia was a prominent figure during the Italian Renaissance, known for her controversial family ties and political marriages. Her life is often depicted as emblematic of the era's intrigue and the complex power dynamics of the Borgia papacy. What was the last battle where a British monarch led troops into battle? Dettingen, 1743. The Battle of Dettingen, fought in 1743 during the War of the Austrian Succession, is historically significant as the last time a British monarch, King George II, personally led troops into battle. This event marks a turning point in the evolving role of monarchs in military campaigns. Of the 6 Winter Olympics held between 1988 and 2006, how many were outside of Europe? 3. The Winter Olympics are held every 4 years, with host cities chosen globally. Between 1988 and 2006, 3 of the 6 Winter Olympics were hosted outside Europe, demonstrating the expanding global reach of the Olympic movement. The Symphony No. 3 in E-flat major, Opus 55, by Ludwig van Beethoven is known as what? The Eroica. Beethoven's Symphony No. 3, known as the Eroica, is a landmark work in music history, marking a significant shift from the classical to the Romantic period. It embodies themes of heroism and revolution, expanding the symphonic form in scope and emotional depth. Which fermented liquid condiment used for flavoring, especially of grilled meats, and also used as an ingredient in cocktails and drinks, was first made by 2 dispensing chemists, John Wheely Lee and William Henry Perrins? Worcestershire sauce. Worcestershire sauce is a fermented liquid condiment with a complex flavor profile, widely used in cooking and as a table condiment. It was first formulated by chemists John Wheely Lee and William Henry Perrins in Worcester, England, in the 19th century, becoming a globally recognized culinary staple. When did homosexuality between consenting adults cease to be illegal in England and Wales? 1967. The Sexual Offences Act 1967 decriminalized homosexual acts between consenting adults in private in England and Wales, marking a pivotal moment in LGBTQ+ rights history. This legislative change initiated a gradual process of social and legal reform, challenging long-standing discriminatory laws and attitudes. What is the art and science of writing hidden messages in such a way that no one, apart from the sender and intended recipient, suspects the existence of the message? Steganography. Steganography is a method of concealing data within another non-secret file or message to avoid detection. Unlike cryptography, which scrambles a message to make it unreadable, steganography's goal is to hide the very existence of the communication. What city is divided into 20 administrative areas which include Louvre, Temple, Htel de Ville, Pantheon, Luxembourg, Élysée, Opera, Popincourt, Gobelins, Observatoire and Ménilmontant? Paris. Paris, the capital of France, is administratively structured into 20 arrondissements, arranged in a clockwise spiral from the city's center. Each arrondissement functions as a municipal administrative district, featuring unique cultural and historical landmarks. What is the tallest known volcano and mountain in the solar system? Olympus Mons, on Mars. Olympus Mons is a colossal shield volcano located on the planet Mars, standing approximately 25 kilometers, 16 miles, high. Its immense size, significantly larger than Mount Everest, is attributed to Mars' lower surface gravity and the absence of tectonic plates, allowing lava to accumulate over billions of years.